The Galactic Council had overseen the collapse of 7 civilizations. They had signed off on 5 of them without a second thought. And yet, when humanity finally spoke in that chamber of stars, every alien delegate felt something ancient and cold crawl up their spines. It began with an insult. Earth had been invited to join the galactic community, a polite way of saying, surrender your sovereignty, disarm your fleets, and accept protective oversight. The message came wrapped in diplomacy, glowing seals, and a threat so subtle it might as well have been engraved in neutronium. Comply or be corrected. The Council's enforcers, the Veiled Dominion, were legendary. They didn't conquer worlds, they audited them into compliance. Economies collapsed, governments fractured, peacekeeping fleets arrived, resistance ended. Humans were expected to do the same. They didn't. The first human ambassador to the Council wasn't a diplomat. He was a retired Marine general named Elias Ward. Gray hair, steel spine, a face carved from decades of war and bad decisions. He listened quietly as the Veil High Arbitrator explained why Earth must dismantle its orbital defenses. Then Ward leaned forward. Let me get this straight, he said calmly. You want us to disarm so you can protect us? The chamber's lights shimmered. Alien dignitaries shifted nervously. The Veil's 4 golden eyes narrowed. It is standard integration protocol. Ward smiled. It wasn't a friendly smile. On Earth, we have a phrase for that, he said. We call it invasion. Static erupted across the chamber, psychic murmurs and offended cries bouncing off every wall of the Council. Refusal constitutes hostility, the High Arbitrator hissed, voice like fractured glass. Ward stood. Then I guess we're hostile. The transmission ended. 2 weeks later, the Veil fleet arrived in Seoul. They expected scattered resistance. A few nuclear relics. Brave but doomed fighter craft. What they found instead was silence. No radio chatter. No fleet formations. Just a deceptively peaceful blue planet. Veil warships moved into orbit with the confidence of gods. And then Jupiter ignited. Not with fire. With steel. Hidden within the gas giant storms, humanity had constructed something no alien intelligence had considered. A fleet that didn't orbit a planet, it orbited the star system itself. Massive warships erupted from Jupiter's atmosphere, hulls coated in decades of stealth tech and ablative ice. Rail cannons the size of skyscrapers rotated into position. The first Veil dreadnought split in half before its shields fully engaged. The Council watched live. They watched as human ships, blocky, brutal, ungraceful, charged forward, not in defensive formation, but in wedges. No negotiation. No warning. Just fire. The Veil had superior shielding. Humans compensated with something uglier. Their missiles didn't aim for engines, they aimed for crews. Biochemical payloads designed not to breach hulls, but to slip through microscopic fractures, turning warships into coffins of choking, screaming soldiers. The Veil had never conceived of targeting life over infrastructure. It was inefficient, barbaric. Human commanders called it cost-effective. Within 6 hours, half the Veil fleet was reduced to debris. Then humanity did something worse. They transmitted a message to the Council. Not surrender. Coordinates. Veil Prime. And one sentence. You forgot we map stars too. The Council convened in emergency session. For the first time in recorded galactic history, the Veiled Dominion requested aid. The irony was not lost on anyone. Humanity cannot reach Veil Prime, the High Arbitrator insisted, though his voice trembled. Their propulsion is inferior. Across the chamber, the insectoid Kresh delegate clicked its mandibles. Then how did they send coordinates? Silence. On Earth, General Ward stood in a command center carved beneath the Pacific Ocean. The walls were lined with relics of human history, flags from dead nations, medals from forgotten wars, photographs of cities once obliterated by storms and fire. A young naval officer approached. Sir, Operation Pioneer is ready. Ward glanced at the display. The human fleet wasn't accelerating toward Veil territory. They were diving toward the sun. History lesson, Ward muttered. When backed into a corner, humans either build walls or burn the corner down. The fleet plunged into solar orbit. Veil analysts laughed when they saw it. Suicide, one declared. They were wrong. Human vessels deployed massive gravitational anchors, experimental devices once designed for asteroid mining. They latched onto the sun's curvature of spacetime itself. Then they fired, not weapons, engines. The sun flared violently as spacetime warped. The human fleet vanished. Across the galaxy, near Veil Prime, space tore open like a wound. Human ships emerged, hulls glowing from solar proximity, engines shimmering with deadly brilliance. The Veil home defense fleet scrambled too late. The first thing humanity destroyed wasn't military, it was symbolic. The Spire of Dominion, a monument celebrating 10,000 conquered worlds, collapsed in a single rail strike. Ward's face appeared across Veil network. Calm. Unyielding. You came to our home, he said evenly. Figured we'd return the courtesy. The Veil unleashed planetary defenses. Orbital lasers carved through human cruisers. Thousands died in seconds. Human ships did not retreat. Boarding pods launched. Marines, veterans who remembered Earth before first contact, stormed alien corridors with kinetic shotguns and flamethrowers. One Veil commander cornered a wounded human soldier. You fight without hope, the alien hissed. The soldier spat blood across polished armor. Hopes for civilians. Then he detonated his vest. By the end of the day, Veil Prime's orbital ring lay shattered. But humanity did not glass the planet. They did something far more terrifying. They withdrew. Confusion rippled through the council. Why not finish it? Why spare Veil Prime? The answer came slowly and silently. Economic data. Trade routes collapsing. Insurance markets imploding. Human cyber warfare units had infiltrated galactic infrastructure months ago. Every civilization that voted in favor of correcting Earth found their banking systems frozen. Defense grids offline. Colonial supply chains sabotaged. Humanity hadn't just built warships inside Jupiter, they had built leverage everywhere. The Kresh delegate confronted Ward in a private channel. You risk total war. Ward nodded. You already declared it. Your casualties are catastrophic. You think we don't know that? He leaned closer to the camera. You mistake restraint for weakness. That's a common error. Behind him, footage rolled silently. Human civilians evacuating cities, factories converting to munitions production, old war veterans re-enlisting. This isn't about victory, Ward continued. It's about precedent. The council began to fracture. Smaller species withdrew support from the Veil. Trade alliances shifted overnight. For the first time, the Dominion stood alone. And then the twist came. Earth broadcast classified Veil archives. Evidence of manipulation, fabricated threats, orchestrated rebellions. The 7 extinct civilizations? Not accidents. Experiments. The galaxy recoiled. Even longtime Veil allies felt betrayed. On Veil Prime, riots erupted. Ward addressed the council one final time. We're not conquerors, he said. But we don't forget who tries to chain us. And we don't forgive extinction. Confusion rippled through the Galactic Council. Why had humanity spared Veil Prime? Why not finish the job while the Dominion still bled? The answer emerged slowly, like a predator circling its prey. Economic data. Trade routes collapsing. Insurance networks frozen. Supply lines for entire colonies sabotaged. Human cyber warfare units had infiltrated galactic infrastructure months ago, before the Veil even reached Sol. Every system that had supported the Dominion found itself crippled. Humanity hadn't just built warships inside Jupiter, they had built leverage everywhere. The Kresh delegate confronted Ward in a private channel. You risk total war. You've already lost thousands of soldiers. Ward nodded. You already declared it. Your casualties are catastrophic. Ward's eyes hardened. You think we don't know that? He leaned closer to the camera. You mistake restraint for weakness. That's a common error. Behind him, footage silently rolled. Civilians evacuating cities, factories converting to munitions production, old war veterans re-enlisting. This isn't about victory, Ward continued. It's about precedent. The council began to fracture. Smaller species withdrew support from the Veil. Trade alliances shifted overnight. The Dominion stood alone for the first time in its 10,000-year history. Then the twist came. Earth broadcast classified Veil archives, evidence of the Dominion's manipulation of previous first contacts, fabricated threats, orchestrated rebellions, forced civilizations into dependency before offering protection. The 7 extinct civilizations? Not accidents, experiments. The galaxy recoiled. Even longtime Veil allies felt betrayed. The arrogance of the Dominion had finally been exposed. On Veil Prime, riots erupted in every city. Citizens rose against their overlords, fueled by fear and fury. The Dominion's enforcers struggled to maintain control. Ward addressed the council one final time. Calm. Even. Ruthless. We're not conquerors, he said. But we don't forget who tries to chain us. And we don't forgive extinction. He paused. We don't just fight to survive. We fight to teach a lesson. No empire, no matter how ancient, should assume humans are weak or compliant. Behind him, human fleets regrouped in orbit, wounded ships silently repairing, crews preparing for the next strike if needed. The Veil High Arbitrator, once unflinching, now trembled before the camera. You could have destroyed us. Ward shrugged. So could you. And yet you didn't. Ward's gaze hardened. Because someone has to break the cycle. The council trembled. The Dominion bled. And the galaxy learned something new. Humanity did not fight like other species. They fought with cunning, patience, and an almost cruel understanding of leverage. The true weapon of Earth was not firepower. Not even strategy. It was perception, the understanding that fear and respect are not the same, and that one can dominate without annihilation. Every civilization in attendance would remember this day. Every species that underestimated humanity would pay attention. And the Veil would never again mistake patience for weakness. The final battle wasn't fought with fleet. It was fought with legitimacy. The Galactic Council convened again, this time under human terms. For the first time in millennia, the Veil Dominion had no allies willing to enforce their will. Smaller species demanded reforms. Trade embargoes were imposed. Internal uprisings fractured Veil control. Human fleets remained stationed near Veil space, not attacking, just observing. A reminder that restraint could be as terrifying as annihilation. The High Arbitrator requested direct negotiation. Ward agreed. They met aboard a neutral station orbiting a dying red star. The Veil leader, once a towering figure in alien lore, now looked small. Fatigued. Vulnerable. You could have destroyed us, the arbitrator admitted. Ward shrugged. So could you. Why didn't you? Ward considered the question. Because someone has to break the cycle. Silence stretched. Not a single delegate dared interrupt. You expect gratitude? The Veil asked. Ward's expression turned cold. No. I expect caution. A new treaty was drafted, not of submission but of parity. Enforcement authority stripped from the Dominion. First contact protocols rewritten under human oversight. Every civilization would be treated as sovereign, or face consequences that would echo across the stars. Back on Earth, life slowly returned to something resembling normal. War widows gathered under quiet skies. Shipyards rebuilt. Children asked questions about aliens and courage. In a bar overlooking the Atlantic, Ward sat alone, staring at the horizon. A young reporter approached. General, do you think they fear us now? Ward took a slow drink. The amber liquid caught the last light of the sun. They should, he said. But fear isn't the point. What is? He looked at the ocean, vast, unpredictable, impossible to control. Respect. Across the galaxy, species studied humanity with new eyes, not as primitives, not as easy additions to an empire, but as something far more unsettling. A civilization that would rather drag the stars themselves into battle than kneel. The Council had trembled, the Dominion had bled, and humanity had made one thing abundantly clear. We are not your experiment. We are not your subjects. We are not afraid of gods, and if you mistake patience for weakness, we will remind you, loudly. The stars themselves had witnessed it, and every corner of the galaxy would remember. Humans do not negotiate from fear. They calculate, endure, and strike with devastating precision. And when humanity strikes, it is never for show. It is for survival. It is for vengeance. It is for respect. The Galactic Council, and every would-be conqueror, now knew the immutable truth. The human spirit could not be measured, tamed, or contained. Because we are human, and we do not forgive easily.